Hello there, and welcome back to the clairecodes channel. Today we are going to be adding to some open source code. This project is a bit more advanced, in a way, from my other tutorials as it requires knowledge of React, SCSS, and Redux, as well as the process of making sense of somebody else's code and adding to it in a meaningful way. The project in question is called TroutSpotr, and it was built by Stuart Anderson. Additionally, there's a live app that can be accessed through Heroku. Both the GitHub repo and the app link will be provided below. So what is TroutSpotr all about? I'll let Stu explain a bit for himself.
I have been spending about 4 years obsessing over this website, and I took a vacation from work, which I call a sabbatical, and for the last 4 months I've been crafting this website to try to make it as easy to use and as informative as possible. So what's it about? It's something really, really dorky. It's about helping anglers make safe and legal choices when fishing for trout in Minnesota. And I know that most people here are like, what? Like, what? But that actually makes you the perfect audience for it. Like, it actually makes you exactly the kind of people that I made this for. I have a lot of friends who have never gone fishing, but they're often kind of interested in it. But there's a lot of apprehension, and there's a lot of anxiety. It's like, where do I go fishing? I can look it up on a map, but I don't really know where to go. And not only do you not know where to go, you don't know when to go or what the regulations are. And then there's another part of it too. Most streams go across private land, and some of it goes across public land, and yet even more of it goes across private land that's publicly fishable, which means the landowner has sold an easement, which means you can fish there. Like, it's okay for you to fish in this little band that goes along the stream. And I made a website that tries to make it a lot easier for you to figure that out. So I'm going to show you the website. So we've divided Minnesota up into several regions, and we're going to go to southeastern Minnesota. I click on southeastern Minnesota, and it shows me a map of what's available here. Not only do I have a map, but I also have a list view, which I can filter down for like trout or something like that. Let's take a look at Trout Run Creek. That looks very promising. So once we load up Trout Run Creek, we can see that we have a summary over here that tells us if it's open and what the regulations are, how much public land there is, and how much trout habitat there is. And then all of these little dots here are actually road intersections. They're where the a road intercepts the stream. There might be a bridge there. So if we look at the map, I'll prove it to you. Look, right here at E, you can see that there's a bridge that goes across the stream. If I hit the back button and go back to details, right, just to prove it once more, click map, there we are. And then you can switch over to another region if you want to, and it'll zoom out and enhance, and it says, oh, you don't have any streams here, you should clear your search. So I click on that, and all my streams are right here. Let's try this one, Beaver River, East Branch. Cool, let's say I want to copy the URL and send it to a friend. Well, then it loads up Beaver River, East Branch. I can select map if I want to. It takes a little while for it to load. Don't mind me, every so often this thing actually blanks out. More importantly, if I click on the actual road intersection, I can select Google Maps. And it'll load it up in Google Maps, and now I can route a path there.
So what are we going to be doing today? Today, we will just be using this tutorial as an exercise to add to open source code. We are going to be adding to the front-end user interface of the home page, which I will walk through in a moment. So we, in fact, will not be touching anything having to do with the amazing mapboxGL system Stu set up. And in fact, what we are adding could be considered fluff. But I think it's a good exercise in making sense of someone else's code and exploring how to add to it ourselves. So here we are on the home page. As you can see, there's kind of a logo name, TroutSpotr. We have this great equation. We have trout streams, public land, plus public roads equals safe and legal fishing. Then we have a little description. TroutSpotr is a tool that helps you make safe and legal choices when fishing for trout. However, before you use it, you must understand and agree to some ground rules first. And then we can continue on to the terms of service. And I think if we refresh the page, there should be, an animation for this and kind of an animation for the background, which is great. And this is actually kind of what the map looks like behind it. And I think this is very well done. I like the color scheme, and I think this makes this pop. As you can see, this is desktop, and it is responsive. So it becomes bigger, it becomes smaller. So while I do like this, I think what maybe could improve it is to have a different desktop look than mobile. So that is what we are going to be doing today. Is this necessary? Like I said before, no, this works. It's functioning, right? But I think this might be, again, a nice way of just exploring how to add to someone's code. So let's walk through what happens. So we're here on the home page. Then we click this button, continue to terms of service. Love the animation again. So do not trespass, obey fishing regulations. This app is not legal advice. Boom. So let's read the terms of service. So I'm not going to read this all loud, but I think it's great that it's here, and always read the terms of service. Thank you. And then we're going to agree and continue. We are not interested in your secret fishing spots. We are very interested in using the web to help anglers make safe and legal choices. To that end, we track usage, not users, and you can opt out. So now we're going to look at the privacy policy. Again, read it, always good. Now we're going to agree and finish. Let's go fishing. Yay. And then we're brought to the map. Beautiful. We can go to Montana, Wyoming, back to Idaho. And again, we can look through this. And like in the demo, we can always search for a stream or just continue on our merry way. The cool thing about this website, this app, is once I load it, I no longer am brought to the terms of service or the homepage ever again. So again, is redesigning the homepage that necessary if you're always brought into the app? Probably not, but let's jump to it. Okay, so the first thing I did was fork TroutSpotr front end to my GitHub. And as you can see, it's all here. So what we're going to do is, now that it's forked, I'm going to copy it to my clipboard. I'm going to go to my terminal. I'm going to cd to my desktop. And then I'm going to do git clone. And voila. And so this might take a while, so I'll just turn back to this when we're ready. All right, we'll be back. Okay, so it did download. Unfortunately, I did hit some snags. So since I already have this forked and cloned and all set up, we're going to use one that I already had set up just because it's working. Again, if I had hit these snags, one solution obviously is to just contact the developer themselves. So in this case, you could reach out to Stu. So right now so it is on my desktop. So I'm going to cd desktop. And then I'm going to cd, and let's just double check what this is called. And it is called TroutSpotr front end. Boom. And then I'm going to do code dot to open it up. Beautiful. All right, so since this is a copy of what I'm working on, I'm just going to do git branch to see what's going on. Okay, so I started a new branch called Feature Claire App Onboarding, right? And so as you can see, it's also connected to the TroutSpotr original, which is great. I'll include a link on how I did this, but I'll just walk through the steps. So what you do is I would type in git remote add upstream, and then I'd go back here and so this is my forked repo, and this is his repo. So I'd go here, I'd copy this, I'd paste it there, and then I'd press enter so that it was now upstream to the original. And then I do git checkout -b, and then I would name it my brand. So in this case, Feature Claire /app onboarding. Cool. And then from here, let's read the README. Let's do that. So I actually have node modules, right? So, I don't like that that's there. Okay, cool. So I actually already did yarn. That's the command to install all of the dev dependencies. But let's read what he has to say. So this is the TroutSpotr front end. Help anglers make safe and legal choices when fishing for trout. And we have to have the correct node version, which I believe I do. Then you can npm install. Again, this also has yarn lock, so you can just yarn. If we look at the package.json, we can see that there are a bunch of scripts. There's start, there's serve, and there's something called storybook. What is storybook? So since it's already all set up, I can actually run, let's see, what do we have here? We have a yarn lock, and we also have a package lock. So let's try npm run start. And let's also have another window. So let's press enter there, boom. And let's do npm run storybook. Oop, if I can spell things correctly. Okay, so storybook, which is a really cool thing, it's actually another server, and it's kind of like a playground. So let's look at what it is. Let's click into localhost 6006, and let's give it some time to run. Let's see what happened with our npm start. Okay, did not like that. Something happened there. Okay, so we do have storybook, which is awesome. So we can see that there's terms of agreement, so we can actually see what the page is, and this is what like a button looks like. And if we go to knobs, there aren't any knobs right now, but knobs is a feature where I could actually add text in, and we can see the privacy policy. So this is very cool. This, if we can't get it to start, we can at least view it here, which is awesome. All right, let me try to figure this out, and I will be back. Okay, server is being run outside, so let's actually try that. Let's do npm run server. And do Control-C to get out of that. npm run server. And it didn't like that either. Missing script server. Oh, yeah. We want serve. npm run serve. Okay, beautiful, and we're up and running. Okay, so maybe. Let's see. Let's open. Okay, so we have it without select your region. Okay, so we have it without that. I'm going to try one thing because I've already clicked through there. I know this is getting way too complicated. Let's go through. Okay, beautiful. So we have it running on localhost. This is all we need. I think what happened is I already actually have clicked through it. So as you know, once we continue to terms of service, we cannot see it anymore. We can actually set it up so that it always goes there. But this is all we need. So it's beautiful. We have it set up. I'm sorry this was like a little convoluted, I feel like. But we're doing our best. And again, we can always use React Storybook to also work on our page. So either way works. I just really wanted to get both up and running. Cool, so let's actually start with our code. I believe in us. Okay, cool. So now we have this all up and running. We have it in these two browsers. Let's actually spend some time looking through this. So what do we have here? We have, the build, we have the server, and this is where the magic is going to happen in the source folder. So now we have the API, static, and UI. UI, the user interface, is what we're working on. And then we have a bunch. We have our reducers, our routes, and we have the core. The core is where we're going to focus. So as we know, we're working on the terms of agreement. And if I look, there's a thank you, and there's an intro component. And if we look here, this should look familiar. There's the TroutSpotr logo, trout streams, public land, public roads, safe and legal fishing. Yeah, and so definitely you can download this and look through it yourself. And if we go back to Storybook, we can see button and some text. And then we can go here and we can see button component and button stories. Button with some text, button with a lot of text. So, and then if we go back here, button with a lot of text. So that's what it looks like for that. And so you can kind of play around with what would it look like with different kinds of things going on. Okay, cool. So let's go back to the intro. And as you can see, he's using an interesting structure wherein the classes, their names are going by classes from the SCSS. So it's coming from agreement. So that's great. We can see where this comes from. And then he labeled them like jumbo, plus green. Yeah, so there's a lot going on. And then here, he broke it down into different functions, which are then all called within the bottom render, because this is a class component and it has a component did mount. And yeah, so then on click, it calls this function, which will advance to the next thing. And I think that's really cool. So I'm going through this kind of quickly, but hopefully, this isn't like a tutorial on how to do React or how to do Redux. That will come later, or even how to do sass, which I love, stands for syntactically awesome style sheets. So we can look through. This is where the SCSS is coming from for intro. And yeah, it's kind of typical. As you can see in sass, you can define variables. So white will always be white. He's using something called vmin, which I hadn't, and vmax. I guess typically just vmin. Vmin, it's kind of cool. Let's actually look up what that is so I can explain. Not that. Cool. So vmin is it's the viewport width. So basically it's going to be fluid. So it'll decrease with the width and increase with the width of the page without you having to define like, okay, at this breakpoint I want it to change to 10 pixels and this breakpoint I want it to change to 12 pixels. It's just a responsive size, which I think is really cool. I had never seen that before looking at this repo. Okay, awesome. So we have all that going on. Okay, so the next thing I want to find is the core layout container. So this is actually where all of the routing is happening. So as you can see, hey, if you've already agreed to the terms, like return null, and that's exactly how we are his app is working. So if you've already agreed, like don't even show it, right? So these are all the routes. So let's actually find where intro is. So let's do command F intro, no results. Oh, maybe this is agreement, terms of agreement. So it's actually the agreement component. Great. So agreement component. And here is where it appears, down here. So let's actually look at the agreement component. Cool. So in here, we have intro component. So we know that if we want to change the intro component, we're going to have to change it here. And because I'm actually going to add a whole new component and just to keep his intro there to show the difference for the purposes of this demo. So we're going to want to change it wherever intro is used here. And we can see it appears a lot. And I did command F to do that. So intro is here. And then if you've seen the intro screen, all of this stuff. So again, it's really great to look through this. We can also look at his Redux. Would be cool to look at. Yeah, but those are the main things I'm going to focus on. So let's actually jump into writing our own code. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to make a new directory, and I'm going to call it home. Okay, cool. Nope, that is not what I want to do. Let's delete that. Delete home. By home. Okay, so let's go back. We're actually in terms of agreement too. That's not what we want. Let's go back to UI. Let's open core. And we want a directory within core. Cool. And we want to call it home. Great. All right, home should be empty. Beautiful. And now what I would do first is get the intro component. And let's copy that. And let's go back to home. Let's open that and let's paste that in. And this is intro.component and we want it to be, let's rename that. So I pressed enter. And let's call this home.component. And then let's make home have its own SCSS file, home.scss. And then home could have its own story. It could also have a button component, right? Because we know that this has a button going on with it. Cool. So let's go back to home and let's see what we want to happen. I'm actually going to we're not going to use this. Instead, we're going to import classes from home.scss. Cool. We have prop types going on, and then we have our button component. And again, we're going to just make our own button component. So we like that. Yeah, and our intro actually is going to be quite different than this. So let's think about how we're going to plan this out. Okay, for brevity's sake, I'm actually going to just copy what I did beforehand. So, boom, ba-da-boom, ba-doom. Okay, so I'm going to paste this in, and let's go through what's happening. So again, we have the title being rendered. We're rendering the preamble, so the equation, and we're rendering the, again, the preamble, all this stuff. So we have, you know, the safe and legal fishing, and now we're gonna render what's going on down here. The info, and then the agreement info I actually separated out, and then I render them I call them all here, and then the button. Cool. So right now the button actually is not connected to anything, but again, this is just a demo. So we could hook it all up, but for now, we're just going to leave it like this. And then next, we actually want to hook this up, right? So let's go back to our core container. Let's save this. And let's go Command P to get somewhere. And we actually have it here, the core layout container. And instead of having the agree component, I want actually to connect it to the home. So let's do import home from ... and home is going to come from home. It's right there. Cool. And then / home component. Sweet. And then we can find where agreement component is by doing Command F, find agreement component, go down there, and we're gonna instead put home there. Cool. So let's save that, and let's see what goes on. So let's reload this page. And as you can see, we have our home component. I added another button, thinking ahead, and it has no styling, right? This is just like out of the box, no styling. Okay. So now I'm actually going to add back in Stu's styling, and then together we're going to add in styling for the media query. Okay, so I'll be right back. Okay. So now we have, remember, a blank SCSS file. It looks like that. Not that pretty. We want to style it up. So I'm going to paste in. I left in the media queries, but they are blank. And then I'm going to save this in a moment. As you can see, I did min width 768. So once it's exceeds the size of mobile, I want it to change, right? And 768 is typical for that. Oh, sorry. Once it exceeds the size of tablet, that's when I want it to change. So 360 pixels would be mobile, and 768 is tablet. So once it exceeds tablet, please do it this way. And that's actually a good way to be, is to start as small and then have it grow when it gets bigger. Okay, cool. So I'm going to now save this, and let's see if Stu's styling comes back. So let's refresh this page. Beautiful, it's all there. Okay, cool. So let's see what we want to happen. So we want to leave the home container itself the same. Let's go back to home component. Let's see where title container is. Okay, so title container is the whole container that's containing everything within there. And I did change some of this SCSS from before. So now, let's actually have it so that, okay, cool. So my vision for this is that when it's small, right, it looks like this. And then when it gets larger, this actually is inline flex. So it comes and sits over there, and there will be space in between. So let's make that happen. So let's do display inline flex, justify content, space between, and then width, let's make it so the full width, 100%. And let's see what that looks like actually. And see, now it's to the right. So already this is different. This is interesting. And if we make it smaller, boom, comes back to the right. Cool. All right, so now let's move down to the title. Obviously, we want the title to get smaller so that there's more room there. So for here, I'm going to make sure that the top, margin top, changes from 1 vmin to just 0. Oop, not O, 0. Okay, cool. And then I want the font size to decrease. So font size is now going to be 3 vmin. And let's see what that looks like. If it wants to like me. Cool. So now it's small. And then when we get here, it should grow. Small, grow. Sweet. It's all coming into fruition. And then for the equation, similarly, I want it to become smaller. So I'm going to make the font size 3 vmin. And then I'm going to do different margin bottom of 8 vmin. Actually, that kind of stayed the same, so we probably don't need to define that, but we'll leave that there. Width of 30 vmin. So we're decreasing the width by half. Kind of interesting. And boom, look at that, right away. So small, and I don't need a demo again, but obviously it's going to get larger and it's going to float underneath. Next, important text. So I called this important text, and then I called that secondary text below. So the important text, I want to have a font size of 8 vmin. And then I want specifically the paragraph within it to have a margin top of 10 pixels. And then let's go here. Let's see, we want this to happen. I think I'd probably, I wanted this to be a little smaller. So we're just going to give this a font size of 3 vmin. Just a tad smaller. What else we got? Okay, now our button container itself. So if we look back over here, so I made this the largest because I wanted that to be understood. This was just, my personal preference. Again, they are the same size at this size. And then as you can see, I actually have 2 buttons because I was thinking, what if you wanted to just learn more about the app before entering it? Was an idea. And as you can see, this one actually is large, this one's small. You know what? Why don't we go back to the home component? Let's find our buttons. And let's just go like that. Let's get rid of that for now. So we just have 1 button to worry about. Let's go back here. So we just have our terms of service button. And I think I already have the media query set for that, which is fine because as you can see, it got small. And now let's work on, this is button 2, which we just got rid of. So yeah, this was again a very fast way of doing this. Cool. So now if I do terminal and I make a new window, not enough space. Okay, let's do new terminal. Okay, so I'm still in here. What I would do is, as you can see, I have 4 commits. I do git commit, or sorry, git add, and by that I meant I changed 4 files. And we can actually click in to see what I changed. Makes sense. Git add, and I'm going to add everything. Git commit new homepage and styling. And then let's go to the branch, git branch. And we called it feature Claire app onboarding. And I'm going to do git push origin, boom. And let's see if it pushes up. Cool. So now let's go back to GitHub. And let's refresh. Let's see our branch. Onboarding. Cool. So now I can make a pull request from here. And it can't automatically merge, but as you can see, I can actually merge it into whatever branch I wanted. So this is how, and then I would create the pull request. This is how you would add to an open source project. Again, we hit some little bumps along the way. This is not typical, I would say, especially if you're in contact with the person whose the repo it is. And this is also, as you can see, a very complicated repository. There's a lot going on here. And yeah, and then you can also see it here, which is awesome. Cool beans. So yeah, let's walk through this app again. Let's continue this terms of service. Oh, right, I didn't connect it all up. Okay, so yeah, that's that. This is the storybook again. TroutSpotr, please check it out. I will put all the links below. Play around with it. It is awesome. Thank you for tuning in. I hope you learned something. I hope you contribute to some open source repositories. And have a great day. See you in the next tutorial. Bye!